He protected the alien princess with his life, and now the queen won't let him go. The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, glittering like distant fires, but Captain Elias Drake barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the chaos unfolding below on the planet's surface. Explosions rocked the ground, lighting up the night with fire and smoke. Ships screamed across the sky, dodging lasers, while alien soldiers clashed with human forces in a desperate struggle for survival. Elias gritted his teeth, gripping the controls of his fighter with white-knuckled determination. Every decision mattered. Every second counted. He had been sent to the warfront on the edge of Zethuria's territory, a mission considered too dangerous for ordinary human soldiers. But Elias was far from ordinary. He had faced battles that would have broken lesser men. Still, nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing had prepared him for the moment he first saw her. Princess Lyria, the heir of Zethuria, was trapped in the open during a sudden ambush. Her protective guards had fallen too quickly, overwhelmed by the enemy's advanced weapons. She ran with elegance and speed, her silver armor glinting in the flames, but she was alone. Elias' instincts screamed at him to act. Without hesitation, he pushed his fighter into a dive, weaving through the fire of enemy lasers, his mind calculating angles and timing in an instant. The fighter landed near the princess with a screech of metal, skidding across the debris-strewn ground. Elias leapt out before the engines even cooled, rolling to his feet as he scanned the area. The enemy was closing in, their dark uniforms blending with the shadows. Without a second thought, he ran toward Lyria, his presence a shield between her and the chaos. "Princess," he shouted, his voice firm but not alarming. "This way, now." Her eyes widened, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Humans were rare here, and a human running straight into danger to save her was almost unimaginable. She hesitated, and in that split second, a blast erupted near her, throwing her off balance. Elias lunged, catching her in his arms, spinning them both behind the wreckage of a fallen transport. "Hold on," he barked, ignoring the pain that shot through his shoulder from debris. The enemy soldiers advanced, but Elias didn't wait for them to attack. He scanned quickly, taking in the surroundings, then made a decision. He grabbed Lyria's hand, pulling her toward a narrow alley of rubble and twisted metal. "Follow me and stay low," he commanded. They ran, diving behind cover as energy blasts screamed past them. Lyria's heart pounded, but she trusted him. She had no choice. He moved with precision, his every action purposeful, as if he could see the battlefield in slow motion while everyone else moved in chaos. At one point, he vaulted over a smoking vehicle, landing in a crouch and extending a hand to her. "Now," he urged. The two of them reached a makeshift landing zone where Elias had parked a small, unarmed shuttle. The engines were already humming, a signal that they had little time to waste. As they climbed in, a group of enemy soldiers appeared at the far end of the street, weapons raised. Elias slammed the throttle and lifted off, dodging a volley of fire that scorched the hull. Inside the shuttle, Lyria finally exhaled, her chest heaving. She looked at Elias, taking in the human who had risked everything to save her. You saved me," she said, her voice trembling. Elias gave a quick, tight smile. "That's what I do," he replied simply. But even as they escaped the immediate danger, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on Elias. Protecting a princess in the midst of a war was no simple task. The stakes were higher than he could imagine, and yet he felt a strange clarity in his purpose. This was why he had trained for every battle, faced every impossible mission. And now, here he was, with a life in his hands that mattered more than any orders or medals could. The shuttle hurtled through the atmosphere, dodging enemy drones and navigating fiery debris from the city below. Lyria watched silently, her mind racing with questions about this strange human who had thrown himself into danger without hesitation. He was brave, yes, but there was something more. An intelligence, a careful calculation in every move that suggested he was not merely a soldier, but someone who could think faster than most beings she had ever encountered. "Where are we going?" she asked finally, her voice steadying. "Somewhere safe," Elias replied, not giving details. "I'll explain once we're out of immediate danger." The shuttle passed through a narrow canyon of rocky spires, shaking violently as it avoided another incoming attack. Elias' hands moved with controlled precision, adjusting thrusters and dodging the incoming fire. "Hold on," he muttered, and for a moment his eyes narrowed, focused entirely on survival. They landed finally in a hidden cave system, a prearranged location known only to a few human scouts. The shuttle's engines powered down, leaving them in silence except for the faint hum of cooling circuits. Elias helped Lyria out, scanning the perimeter before releasing a sigh of relief. For now, they were safe. Lyria looked around, her eyes wide with awe and suspicion. "You planned this," she said softly. "I did what I had to," Elias replied. He kept his voice calm, though his body ached from dodging debris and blasting through enemy lines. "You're safe, that's what matters." She nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of his words. It was more than mere rescue, it was a promise. And somehow in that promise she felt a sense of trust she rarely allowed herself. Night fell over the cave, the stars peeking through the jagged openings above. Elias made a small fire using human technology, its warmth a comfort in the cold alien air. Lyria sat across from him, studying his movements as he checked the shuttle and repaired minor damage. "You are human," she said quietly, as if stating a fact she already knew. Elias raised an eyebrow, a small smirk forming. "Yes, and proud of it," he said simply. There was a pause, and then she asked, "Why did you risk your life for me? You didn't know me. You didn't even know if this mission mattered to you personally." Elias looked at her, his eyes steady. "Because it was right, because someone had to do it, and because you mattered in that moment, that was enough." Her gaze softened, and for the first time she saw the humanity in him, not just in appearance but in heart and action. She realized that humans, often underestimated in galactic politics and power, carried something rare. Courage that came without expectation of reward, selflessness without thought of gain, and a drive that defied reason when it came to protecting others. The hours passed, and the cave became quiet, the distant sounds of battle fading as night settled over the planet. Elias and Lyria talked little, but in their silence, trust grew. She observed how he checked the shuttle one last time, how he ensured their surroundings were secure, and how he never let his guard down even for a moment. She understood now that he was not just a protector by chance. He was born to stand in harm's way for those who could not defend themselves. Finally, exhaustion took its toll. Elias leaned against the cave wall, closing his eyes for a brief moment, and Lyria sat beside him. She did not speak, did not move, but her presence alone was a comfort. She had faced threats from many powerful enemies before, but none like this human who had thrown himself into fire and danger to save her. And she knew, deep down, that she had found something rare in him, a bond forged not by politics or duty, but by bravery and heart. Morning light filtered through the cave's jagged opening, casting shadows across the uneven ground. Elias stood, stretching muscles stiff from the previous day's exertions. Lyria rose as well, her expression determined. "We need to get back," she said. Elias shook his head. "Not yet, it's too dangerous. The city is not secure. We need to wait for the right moment." "But the enemies," she trailed off. "They will wait for me," he said firmly. "I've survived worse, and I will make sure you survive too." A quiet admiration passed between them. Lyria realized that in Elias she saw something more than a soldier. She saw humanity at its best, resilient, unyielding, and selfless. And she knew that her kingdom, perhaps even her life, depended not just on her own strength, but on the courage of this human beside her. As they prepared to move again, Elias took one last look at the stars. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy. The galaxy was full of dangers, enemies who would stop at nothing, and challenges that would test every ounce of his skill and spirit. But for now, he had done what mattered most. He had saved a life, and in doing so, he had shown what humanity could achieve when it refused to bow to fear. And somewhere deep in the alien princess's heart, a quiet realization began to grow, that the human at her side was no ordinary soldier. He was something far greater, a protector, a hero, and perhaps the embodiment of everything remarkable about humanity itself. Elias had expected gratitude from the princess, and perhaps a quiet moment of rest after the chaos of the battle, but what awaited him was something entirely different. The shuttle landed gently on a massive landing platform high above Zithuria's capital, a city that gleamed with towers of silver and glass that reflected the rising sun. He had seen the city from above before, but now, walking its streets, he realized the scale of what he had saved. Lyria's kingdom was more than a political entity, it was a marvel of civilization. And yet, the human soldier walking beside her felt like a small thing in such grandeur. The palace was unlike anything Elias had encountered. Its architecture was alien in every way, soaring arches intertwined with floating terraces and streams of light that shimmered through the corridors. Servants and guards alike fell silent as they passed him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and wariness. Humans were rare on Zithuria, and one who had just fought through an ambush to save the princess was rarer still. Princess Lyria led him to the throne room, a massive chamber that seemed to stretch into the clouds. At its center sat Queen Althara, her silver robes cascading around her like liquid metal. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, rested on Elias as if she were measuring him against some invisible standard. He felt the weight of her gaze immediately, more oppressive than any battlefield fire. "You saved my daughter," she said, her voice calm but with a tone that left no room for argument. "For that, you are commended." "But tell me, human, why should I allow you to remain in my presence?" Elias straightened. He had faced hostile alien leaders before, but Queen Althara carried an authority that was entirely different. "Because I had to," he said simply. "Because it was the right thing to do. And because as long as I am here, Princess Lyria will remain safe." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Your courage is noted, but courage alone does not earn trust. My daughter's life is not yours to protect without reason. Humans are unpredictable. You may have fought for her, but what will you do when my enemies offer you greater incentives? How can I be sure your loyalty is not temporary?" Elias met her gaze without flinching. "I don't fight for incentives. I fight for what's right. That has been my life's code. I will not betray her or your kingdom for anything." A flicker of surprise crossed the Queen's face, but it was quickly replaced by the same rigid composure. "Bold words for someone so young. You risked your life once. Will you risk it again, knowing that the stakes now are far higher?" Elias took a breath. He had trained for moments like this, but the stakes were no longer about skill alone. They were about trust, politics, and the future of a kingdom. "I will risk it as many times as necessary. That is my promise." The Queen's expression softened slightly, though her eyes remained vigilant. "Very well, you will remain here, but under strict supervision. You are to serve as my daughter's protector until I am convinced your presence does not threaten Zithuria. You do not have freedom here, human. Understand this." Elias' stomach tightened. Freedom had always been his greatest companion, and now it was being taken from him, not by force, but by duty and trust. Yet he understood the Queen's position. "I understand," he said quietly, "and I accept." Princess Lyria stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on Elias' shoulder. "Do not let her words trouble you," she said. "I trust you. That is enough for now." Elias nodded, grateful for her faith, though he could not ignore the weight of the Queen's decree. For the first time in his life, he felt truly bound, not by chains, but by responsibility. And yet he did not resent it. Protecting life, especially one so vital to the future of a civilization, was not a burden. It was a mission that mattered more than anything else. The days that followed were a mixture of training, strategy meetings, and palace protocol. Elias was constantly watched by a cadre of royal advisors and guards, each keen to assess whether the human could be trusted. Yet despite their scrutiny, he moved through their tests with precision and intelligence. He learned the layout of the palace, the schedules of guards, and the habits of court officials. Every detail mattered. He knew that if he were to protect Lyria effectively, he had to understand the inner workings of the kingdom as well as the outer threats. Lyria observed him closely, fascinated by the way he adapted. Unlike other soldiers who relied on strength alone, Elias combined intellect, instinct, and empathy in every decision. He could predict movements, anticipate attacks, and most importantly, maintain calm under pressure. In the quiet moments, she asked him about Earth, about his experiences, and he spoke with honesty, never embellishing, never boasting. His words painted a picture of humanity that was both humble and extraordinary, a species capable of incredible resilience and moral courage. One evening, as the sun set behind the palace towers, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet, Queen Althara summoned Elias once more. He entered the council chamber, where holographic maps of Zithuria and surrounding sectors floated in midair. The Queen stood before them, her posture rigid, her expression unreadable. "Human," she said, "I have observed you closely. You have proven skill, yes, and bravery beyond measure, but bravery without understanding is dangerous. You must understand the full scope of what you are protecting. My daughter is not merely royalty, she is the future of Zithuria. Her safety affects entire worlds, entire alliances. One misstep could bring disaster. Elias nodded. I understand that, Your Majesty. I do not underestimate the responsibility. She studied him for a long moment. Then you must accept one more condition. You are not free to leave Zithuria while I rule. Your presence here is non-negotiable. You will act as protector, strategist, and if necessary, as a warrior for my daughter's life. Do you accept this fully, knowing that your life may never be entirely your own? Elias' jaw tightened. The words stung, for freedom had always been his anchor. Yet he looked at Lyria standing quietly beside the queen and saw the trust in her eyes. It was not blind trust. It was a recognition of his ability, his character, and his heart. For the first time, he realized that freedom could take many forms. Sometimes it meant having the choice to serve, even when that service bound you. I accept, he said firmly, and I will not fail. The queen inclined her head slightly, signaling the end of the council. See that you do not. You are now bound by duty, human. Do not forget it. Life in the palace settled into a tense rhythm. Elias trained alongside the royal guards, learning alien combat techniques while also teaching human strategies that surprised the Zithurians with their ingenuity. He studied their technology, noting both strengths and weaknesses. In return, he shared what he could of human methods, improvisation, adaptability, and intuition. Slowly, he began to gain the respect of those who had doubted him, showing that humans were not just courageous, but clever, resourceful, and capable of holding their own among advanced alien civilizations. Despite the growing acceptance, danger was never far. Reports came in of enemy factions attempting to infiltrate Zithuria, spies trying to sabotage key systems, and rogue ships circling the capital. Each time, Elias was at the forefront, coordinating defenses, guiding guards, and often intercepting threats personally. Every success earned him small nods of approval from the queen, though her scrutiny never wavered completely. Princess Lyria, meanwhile, grew closer to him, not romantically, but as a companion and confidant. She admired his courage and steadiness, and in return, she shared insights about her kingdom, its people, and the delicate balance of alliances. They spoke for hours in the palace gardens, away from the eyes of advisors, discussing everything from military strategy to the simple joys of watching the stars. In these moments, Elias saw the princess not as a royal figure, but as someone with hope, intelligence, and courage of her own. Protecting her was no longer just a mission. It became a matter of respect, trust, and shared purpose. Yet the weight of the queen's command always lingered. Elias understood that while he was trusted, he was also confined. He could not leave Zithuria, not until the queen deemed it safe, or until the threats facing the kingdom had passed. It was a subtle prison, one of duty rather than walls, and it tested his patience. But Elias never let frustration show. Every action he took, every decision he made was with the princess's safety and the kingdom's stability in mind. One night, as a storm raged across the city, lightning illuminating the towering spires, an urgent alarm rang through the palace. An enemy ship had breached the outer perimeter, moving swiftly toward the city's center. Guards scrambled, but it was Elias who took immediate control. He directed defensive systems, coordinated patrols, and even led a strike team to intercept the intruders. The battle was swift and precise, thanks to his leadership, and the enemy was repelled before any harm reached the royal family. Afterward, the queen watched him from a balcony, her expression inscrutable. "You have done well," she said, her voice carrying over the wind. "Perhaps humans are more capable than I allowed myself to believe." Elias did not relax, though a small sense of satisfaction warmed him. "I will continue to prove it," he said simply. Princess Lyria appeared beside him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You've saved more than my life, Elias," she said. "You've saved our people and our hope." He shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. We all played our part, but I will continue to fight for you, for this kingdom, and for what is right." As the storm subsided and calm returned to the city, Elias looked out over Zithuria. He was still a human in an alien world, still bound by duty he had not chosen freely. Yet he felt a strange sense of purpose. Here, in this place of beauty, politics, and danger, he realized that his courage, his decisions, and his loyalty could mean more than medals or recognition. They could mean survival, hope, and the future of a civilization. And though the queen's grip remained firm, Elias accepted it with resolve. Freedom might be limited, but the ability to do what was right, truly right, was a liberty no command could ever take away. He was the protector, and he would not fail. Ilias had begun to understand Zithuria in a way few outsiders ever could. The palace, with all its elegance and alien sophistication, was only the surface. Beneath it, in the labyrinth of corridors, council chambers, and data streams, lay the heartbeat of a kingdom balancing on the edge of uncertainty. Every decision the queen made, every message the princess received, rippled across the galaxy, and Ilias had come to realize that protecting Lyria meant understanding more than just combat. It meant understanding politics, loyalty, and deception. The first sign of trouble came during a routine patrol along the palace's outer perimeter. Ilias had grown familiar with the city's defenses, knowing where sensors were weakest and patrols most likely to be unprepared. Yet even his meticulous checks revealed something unusual, a subtle distortion in the energy readings near one of the supply docks. He called a technician over, a young Zithurian named Vera, and together they examined the anomaly. "It's minor," Vera said, shaking her head. "Nothing that should trigger an alarm," Ilias frowned. "Minor or not, someone tampered with the system. I want a full sweep of the area and security logs from the past 24 hours. Vera hesitated, her compound eyes reflecting the data streams. "It may be nothing, Captain. You humans sometimes see threats where there are none." Ilias didn't respond with words. Instead, he crouched, running a quick diagnostic with his portable device, and his own instincts confirmed it. Subtle manipulation, deliberate but careful, designed to remain hidden until the last moment. Someone was probing the palace defenses, and whoever it was, they were skilled. He reported his findings to Princess Lyria, who listened attentively. Her calm demeanor never faltered, but Ilias caught the subtle tightening of her jaw. "We have enemies," she said softly. "Some we see, others we do not. You must be prepared for both." "I am," he said, though the weight of the statement pressed on him. Protecting Lyria meant more than standing between her and immediate danger. It meant anticipating threats no one else could see, understanding motives, and acting before disaster struck. In the following days, Ilias began to notice patterns that others overlooked. Certain palace aides spoke in hushed tones, movement within the corridors that seemed unnecessary, messages that were slightly delayed or altered. He compiled these observations meticulously, cross-referencing them with previous reports. Slowly, a picture began to emerge, one of deliberate interference, aimed at weakening the palace's stability. One night, as the city lay under a violet sky streaked with the trails of distant ships, Ilias confronted a low-level official he had noticed acting suspiciously. The official attempted to bluff and evade, but Ilias' calm, analytical questioning left little room for deception. Finally, the truth emerged. The official had been coerced by a rival faction to provide small pieces of information, small enough to remain undetected but enough to compromise security if left unchecked. "This is just the beginning," Ilias said grimly. "Someone higher up is orchestrating this. They want access to the princess, or worse, they want to destabilize your kingdom entirely." Lyria listened, her expression a mixture of worry and determination. "Then we must be vigilant," she said. "I trust you to guide us, Ilias. Your insight may be the only thing that keeps Zithuria safe." Ilias felt a quiet surge of pride at her words. Trust was not given lightly in her world, and yet she placed it in him, but pride was fleeting. He knew the stakes were higher than ever, and that any misstep could have catastrophic consequences. The next several days were a whirlwind of preparation and observation. Ilias coordinated with palace guards, reorganizing patrols and updating security protocols, while also monitoring communications for irregular patterns. He trained with the princess, not in combat alone, but in situational awareness and quick decision-making. He wanted her to be ready, even if he were momentarily unable to protect her. Every lesson he taught was grounded in human experience, emphasizing improvisation, adaptability, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. It was during one of these training sessions that the first attack occurred. A small shuttle, cloaked to avoid detection, breached the city's outer perimeter. Sensors should have caught it immediately, but the attackers had disabled a minor relay, one of the subtle manipulations Ilias had noticed earlier. He detected the intrusion almost by instinct, rallying the palace defenders to intercept. The battle was short but intense. Ilias led a strike team, guiding them with precision and foresight. They intercepted the intruders before they could reach the palace, capturing the enemy leader alive. Under questioning, the alien revealed a larger plot. A faction from a neighboring system had been attempting to infiltrate Zithuria for months, aiming to kidnap Princess Lyria and use her as leverage to control the kingdom's alliances. Elias shared the intelligence with the Queen and Lyria, laying out the patterns he had observed, the timing of the attacks, and the likely objectives of the conspirators. Queen Althara listened intently, her eyes narrowing as she absorbed every detail. "You have done well," she said. "Your vigilance has prevented disaster, but the threat is greater than we anticipated. We must act swiftly." Together, they devised a strategy to reinforce the palace defenses, track enemy movements, and create contingencies for every possible scenario. Elias' human perspective proved invaluable. He suggested tactics that combined Zithurian technology with human improvisation, catching advisors off guard with his ingenuity. It became increasingly clear that humans, often underestimated in galactic affairs, could provide solutions that alien civilizations did not expect. As the days passed, Elias and Lyria grew closer, their bond forged through shared danger and mutual respect. They spent hours reviewing strategies, walking through the palace gardens, and discussing the political landscape of the galaxy. Lyria admired his ability to remain calm under pressure, to see threats before they fully materialized, and to act decisively without hesitation. In return, Elias respected her intelligence, her courage, and her unwavering dedication to her people. One evening, as the twin moons of Zithuria cast a soft glow over the city, Lyria confided in him about the pressures she faced. "It is not only enemies outside that trouble me," she said quietly. "There are those within the palace who would see me fail, who would manipulate my decisions for their gain. I fear betrayal not just from the stars, but from those I trust most." Elias nodded solemnly. "Then you are not alone. I will watch over you and I will act when others cannot. Betrayal is always possible, but preparation and vigilance make it less likely." She smiled faintly. "You speak as if humans always have the answers." "I speak as if humans always try to survive," he said, a hint of humor in his voice. "And sometimes that is enough." Despite the growing sense of security, Elias remained alert. He noticed subtle signs that the enemy faction was adapting, changing tactics in response to his interventions. It became a game of strategy, one in which every decision could tip the balance between safety and disaster. The palace staff began to rely on him not just as a protector, but as an advisor. His observations, often overlooked at first, became central to planning and defense. One day, a coded message arrived, hidden within routine communications. Elias recognized it immediately as a warning. The enemy faction had gained new allies, infiltrating multiple systems and preparing for a coordinated strike. The message also contained a clear threat. Princess Lyria was the target, and no precautions would be enough if the attackers reached their goal. Elias presented the intelligence to the Queen and the Princess. "They are more organized than we thought," he said. "This is not a random attack. They are planning something large, and they will use every advantage they can find. We must anticipate their moves and stay one step ahead." Queen Althara's eyes narrowed. "You are correct, human. Your insight has proven invaluable. But now the time has come to act preemptively. We cannot simply wait for them to strike." Elias proposed a plan that combined defensive fortifications, strategic patrols, and selective counterattacks. He emphasized the importance of using the enemy's own assumptions against them, a tactic he had learned through years of combat. His plan required precise timing, coordination across multiple units, and unwavering discipline. Yet it was feasible, and it offered the best chance of protecting the princess while minimizing casualties. Over the next several days, the palace became a hive of preparation. Guards drilled tirelessly, surveillance systems were upgraded, and Elias worked alongside Lyria, training her in situational awareness and quick decision-making. The princess proved to be a fast learner, absorbing every lesson with determination and intelligence. Together, they created a network of communication and strategy that strengthened the palace's defenses far beyond previous expectations. Finally, the night before the anticipated attack, Elias stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the city. The lights of Zithuria shimmered like stars brought to Earth, and he felt the weight of his responsibility pressing down on him. Yet beneath that weight was a quiet confidence. He had prepared, planned, and acted with precision. Whatever came next, he would be ready. Lyria joined him, standing silently by his side. "Do you ever sleep?" she asked. "Sometimes," he replied. "But tonight I will stay awake. The enemy won't wait, and neither will I." She placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Your presence gives me strength," she said. "Not just because you protect me, but because you remind me that even in darkness, we can act with clarity and courage." Elias looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. Protecting Lyria was no longer simply a duty. It was a mission of trust, respect, and shared determination. And as long as he stood at her side, he knew humanity's courage, its ability to act decisively and selflessly, could make a difference, even against overwhelming odds. The first signs of the attack came just after midnight. Alien ships appeared in the sky, their dark silhouettes moving silently against the stars. Elias moved quickly, coordinating defenses, directing guards, and preparing contingency plans. The palace's alarms blared, but his voice rose above the chaos, calm, precise, and commanding. The battle had begun. The city of Zithuria had never been more tense. The air was thick with anticipation, and even the calmest citizens felt the subtle vibration of unease beneath their feet. Captain Elias Drake moved through the palace corridors with steady purpose, his senses alert to every sound, every shadow. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, ensuring that every guard, every sensor, every patrol knew their role. Yet even the best-laid plans could falter when the enemy was clever and ruthless. Princess Lyria walked beside him, her posture confident despite the storm of worry in her chest. She had grown stronger over the past weeks, absorbing Elias' lessons with rapid understanding. She could anticipate threats, react quickly, and make decisions under pressure. Yet despite all her preparation, she knew she could not face the coming danger alone. Elias had become more than a protector. He was her anchor, the steady hand in a world of uncertainty. As they entered the council chamber, Queen Althara's presence filled the room. Her silver robes shimmered in the dim light, and her eyes, sharp and calculating, locked onto Elias with an intensity that made even a seasoned soldier pause. "Captain Drake," she said, her voice calm but edged with authority, "the time has come to make a choice. You have proven your loyalty, skill, and courage, yet your presence here is not without consequence. You are a human, an outsider, and your influence within these walls cannot be ignored." Elias met her gaze evenly. "I understand, Your Majesty. Whatever you require, I am ready to serve." The Queen's eyes softened slightly, though her expression remained firm. "I am offering you a choice. You may remain here, permanently assigned as the royal protector of Princess Lyria, bound by duty and by my command. Or you may leave Zithuria, returning to your own people, though in doing so, you risk the safety of my daughter and my kingdom." Elias felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. Freedom had always been his constant companion, and now it was being held just out of reach, a gift and a burden at once. He thought of Lyria, of the city, of the countless lives that depended on his vigilance. To leave would be to abandon responsibility, to stay would be to sacrifice personal freedom. Yet, as he looked at the princess standing quietly beside the queen, he realized that some choices were larger than self. "I choose to stay," he said finally, his voice steady. "Not because I am forced, but because it is the right thing to do. I will protect Princess Lyria and this kingdom for as long as you need me to, and even beyond that if necessary." Queen Althara studied him for a long moment, then inclined her head. "So be it. You are bound by duty, human. Remember this, and remember that your actions will reflect not only on yourself, but on all humans who seek to aid us." Elias nodded, accepting the weight of her words. It was not a chain of iron, but a chain of responsibility, and he would carry it willingly. The following days were filled with preparation for the impending threat. Elias coordinated with palace guards, training them in new tactics that combined human ingenuity with Zithurian technology. He mapped escape routes, reinforced weak points, and conducted simulations of potential attack scenarios. Every step was calculated, every decision deliberate. The enemy they faced was not merely powerful, they were intelligent, patient, and relentless. Only by thinking one step ahead could Zithuria hope to survive. Princess Lyria proved to be an invaluable partner in these preparations. She had learned quickly, absorbing Elias' lessons with sharp attention to detail. Together, they devised contingency plans, communicated in subtle signals, and coordinated movements that allowed them to act swiftly and decisively. Elias admired her courage and intellect, seeing in her a leader who could inspire loyalty and trust even in the darkest of times. Late one evening, Elias stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The stars sparkled above, distant and cold, but the city below shimmered with life. Lights glowed in the palace towers, and patrols moved with quiet precision. It was a calm moment, a fleeting pause before the storm. "Do you ever wonder if humans are really capable of this?" Lyria asked, stepping beside him. "To fight alongside aliens, to strategize, to protect without question?" Elias smiled faintly. "Humans are capable of more than they know," he said. "We adapt, we endure, and we act when others hesitate. Courage isn't about strength alone, it's about making the right choice, even when the odds are against you." She nodded, absorbing his words. "Then I am glad you are here." The night passed quietly, but dawn brought renewed tension. Reports came in of enemy movements detected in the surrounding sectors. Elias quickly assessed the information, noting the timing, patterns, and likely strategies of the approaching attackers. He briefed the palace guards and royal advisors, outlining defensive measures, patrol adjustments, and emergency protocols. Every detail mattered, and failure was not an option. As the hours passed, the enemy's presence became more pronounced. Ships appeared on the sensors, moving in formations that indicated both strength and coordination. It was not a random assault, it was a calculated strike, aimed to challenge every defense the palace had in place. Elias felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the clarity that came with understanding the stakes and preparing to act. Princess Lyria remained at his side, observing, learning, and assisting where she could. She had grown stronger under his guidance, but Elias knew that the true test would come not from drills or simulations, but from real-time action. He would need to act decisively, adapt quickly, and protect her no matter the cost. The first wave of attackers arrived just after midday. Alien ships descended from the sky, cloaked and fast, attempting to breach the outer defenses. Elias coordinated countermeasures, directing energy shields, patrol units, and strike teams with precise commands. The battle was chaotic, but his calm leadership kept the palace forces coordinated, allowing them to repel the attackers before they reached the inner city. During the confrontation, Elias noticed subtle anomalies, enemy tactics that suggested inside knowledge of the palace defenses. Someone within Zithuria had been feeding information to the attackers, confirming the suspicions he had held for weeks. It was a betrayal that could have catastrophic consequences if left unchecked. After the first wave was repelled, Elias convened a council with Lyria, Queen Althara, and key advisors. "We have a traitor in our midst," he said. "Someone has been providing intelligence to the enemy. We must identify and neutralize this threat immediately, or all our defenses will be compromised." Queen Althara's expression hardened. "This is serious," she said. "You will lead the investigation. Identify the source and bring them to justice. The kingdom depends on it." Elias began a meticulous investigation, reviewing communications, patrol logs, and security footage. He questioned palace staff subtly, observing reactions, testing alibis, and cross-referencing information. His human perspective allowed him to see patterns and inconsistencies that others overlooked, revealing connections between seemingly unrelated events. Days passed in tension and uncertainty. The enemy regrouped, testing defenses with smaller attacks while Elias continued his investigation. Finally, his efforts uncovered the source. A high-ranking official within the palace, someone trusted by both the queen and the princess, had been coerced by the enemy faction. Elias devised a plan to capture the traitor without alerting the enemy, using deception, strategy, and precise timing. The operation was executed flawlessly. The traitor was apprehended, and critical intelligence about the enemy's plans was recovered. Elias presented the findings to the queen, who regarded him with a mixture of respect and restrained approval. "You have done well," she said. "Your insight and decisiveness have prevented disaster. Humans are more capable than I allowed myself to believe." Elias accepted her words with quiet humility. He did not seek praise, only the assurance that Zithuria and Princess Lyria were safe. Yet he felt a deep satisfaction knowing that his actions had made a difference, that humanity's courage and ingenuity had proved itself on a galactic stage. Despite the victory, the tension remained. Ilias knew that the enemy would not give up so easily. They would adapt, change tactics, and seek new ways to strike. The responsibility weighed heavily on him, but he also recognized that every challenge was an opportunity to demonstrate what humans could achieve: courage, intelligence, and perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. Princess Lyria approached him as the council disbanded, her expression thoughtful. "You have shown me that trust is earned, not given lightly," she said. "I see now that humans are not just capable fighters, but thinkers, strategists, and guardians. I am grateful to have you by my side." Ilias shook his head slightly, a faint smile forming. "I am the one who is fortunate," he said. "You trust me, and that trust is more valuable than any reward or recognition. It is why I fight, why I remain here, and why I will continue to do so." As night fell over Zithuria, Ilias stood on the balcony once more, looking out over the city and the stars beyond. The kingdom was safe for now, but the battle was far from over. He had proven that humans could stand alongside alien civilizations, not only in strength, but in intelligence, loyalty, and courage. The Queen's command bound him to the palace, but he had embraced it willingly, understanding that freedom could take many forms, and that sometimes the greatest liberty came from serving a cause greater than oneself. In that quiet moment, Ilias knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with determination and resolve. He was the protector, the strategist, and the human who had earned the trust of a princess, a queen, and an entire kingdom. And in doing so, he had shown what humanity was capable of, even in a galaxy filled with wonders, dangers, and uncertainty. The sky above Zithuria glowed with the light of approaching fleets. Dozens of enemy ships moved in formation, their silhouettes dark against the stars. Captain Ilias Drake stood on the balcony of the palace, scanning the horizon. This was the moment they had prepared for, the culmination of weeks of strategy, vigilance, and training. Every decision he had made, every lesson he had taught Princess Lyria, every precaution he had set in motion led to this. Beside him, Lyria's expression was calm, though her eyes betrayed the tension she felt. She had faced threats before, but this was different. The enemy was organized, coordinated, and determined. Failure was not an option, for the consequences would be catastrophic. Ilias glanced at her, offering a reassuring nod. "We are ready," he said. "Trust what we have prepared and trust each other. That is how we win." The palace buzzed with activity as guards and defense teams prepared for the incoming assault. Energy shields hummed along the outer walls, turrets pivoted into position, and patrol units took their stations. Every human and Zithurian working together, guided by Ilias' strategy, created a network of defense that was both disciplined and flexible. The first wave of attackers arrived with precision, launching a coordinated strike against the palace's outer perimeter. Lasers cut through the sky, illuminating the city in brilliant flashes. Ilias moved quickly, coordinating counterattacks, redirecting patrols, and giving clear instructions to each unit. His voice, calm and commanding, cut through the chaos, allowing the defenders to act with confidence and precision. Lyria observed from the command balcony, her eyes following every movement. She had learned to anticipate threats, to react quickly, and to make decisions under pressure. Yet she relied on Ilias not out of weakness, but because his experience and judgment complemented her own. Together, they formed a partnership built on trust, skill, and understanding. The enemy attempted to breach the outer walls, but Ilias' preparations held. Energy shields absorbed impacts, turrets targeted advancing ships, and patrols intercepted enemy boarding teams. Every action was deliberate, every response calculated. The attackers had anticipated chaos, but what they faced instead was disciplined coordination. Amid the battle, Ilias noticed something troubling: a small squad of enemy ships attempting to flank the palace, moving undetected through a blind spot in the outer sensors. Without hesitation, he mobilized a rapid response unit to intercept them. Using a combination of human tactics and Zithurian technology, he anticipated their trajectory and set up an ambush that neutralized the threat before it reached the inner defenses. The enemy faltered, their formation disrupted. Ilias seized the opportunity, directing counterattacks that pushed the remaining forces back. The palace shields held, the walls remained secure, and the city was safe, at least for now. Yet Ilias knew that victory would require more than defense. They had to act decisively to end the threat once and for all. He convened a quick council with Lyria and key advisors, outlining a plan for a coordinated strike against the enemy's command ships. It was a daring maneuver, requiring precise timing, communication, and execution. Failure could be catastrophic, but success would decisively turn the tide of battle. Lyria nodded, understanding the stakes and committing herself fully to the plan. The strike team launched from hidden hangars beneath the palace. Elias led the formation, piloting his craft with skill and precision. The fleet moved like a single organism, each ship responding to his commands with exacting accuracy. The enemy, expecting only defense, was caught off guard by the coordinated offensive. Laser fire illuminated the void as ships clashed, energy shields flaring and engines straining under the assault. Elias' mind was focused, every decision calculated with clarity. He directed the strike team to exploit weaknesses in the enemy formation, to create openings that allowed the fleet to advance without exposing the palace to danger. His leadership turned what could have been a chaotic battle into a controlled, precise operation. On the ground, Lyria worked with palace defense teams to secure key points and ensure the safety of citizens. She moved with confidence, issuing orders and coordinating teams with a skill that matched Elia's own. Together, they created a unified front, human and Zethurian, soldier and princess, strategist and leader. The enemy command ship was the final target. Elias led the assault personally, navigating through enemy fire to strike at the heart of the opposing fleet. He coordinated with strike teams, directing attacks to disable engines, disrupt communications, and neutralize weapons. The enemy was skilled, but Elias' tactics were superior, combining ingenuity, timing, and relentless focus. As the command ship faltered, its forces began to scatter. The remaining enemy ships retreated, their formation broken, their morale shattered. The palace and city of Zethuria had survived, not merely through strength, but through strategy, coordination, and the courage of those who stood to protect what mattered most. When the battle finally ended, silence returned to the city. The sky was still streaked with the remnants of energy blasts, but the threat had passed. Elias returned to the palace, exhausted but resolute. Lyria met him at the landing platform, her eyes bright with relief and admiration. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it together." Elias shook his head, smiling faintly. "I led the strategy, yes, but you led as well. Your courage, your decisions, they made this possible. Humans can fight, but they also rely on trust, partnership, and shared purpose. That's how we succeed." Lyria's expression softened. "You have shown me what humans are capable of: courage, intelligence, loyalty. You are more than a soldier, Elias. You are a protector, a strategist, and a friend." Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced the enemy, navigated political complexities, and proven that humanity could stand alongside the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. He had risked his life, yes, but he had also shown that humans could think, adapt, and inspire trust in ways that were just as powerful as any weapon. Queen Althara appeared, her presence commanding as always. She studied Elias with a careful, measured gaze. "Captain Drake," she said, her voice carrying both authority and approval, "you have exceeded every expectation. Your actions have protected my daughter, my kingdom, and shown what humans are truly capable of. You have earned not only our trust, but our respect." Elias bowed slightly, acknowledging the weight of her words. "Thank you, your majesty. I have only done what was necessary to protect what is right and just. That is all any human could do." The queen's expression softened further. "Then know this: while you remain here, you are free in purpose, if not in circumstance. You may act where your judgment deems necessary, and your counsel will be valued. You have proven yourself worthy of the title of protector, and your place here is assured." Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. Freedom, he realized, could take many forms. It was not merely the ability to move unimpeded, but the liberty to act with purpose, to choose what was right, and to stand for something greater than oneself. In this moment, he felt truly free, bound not by chains, but by honor and responsibility. As the city celebrated quietly in the aftermath of the battle, Elias and Lyria walked through the palace gardens. The night was calm, the stars reflecting in the streams and fountains, and the air carried the soft scent of alien blooms. Lyria glanced at him, a mixture of gratitude and admiration in her eyes. "You have changed how I see humans," she said. not as outsiders or mere soldiers, but as allies capable of extraordinary courage and wisdom. Elias smiled faintly. Humans are often underestimated, he said, but when we act with heart, intelligence, and determination, we can achieve more than anyone expects. We adapt, we endure, and we fight for what is right. That is who we are. She nodded, and for a moment silence passed between them. It was a comfortable silence, filled not with words but with mutual understanding. The battle had tested them both, forged trust, and proven that together they were stronger than any enemy. The weeks that followed were filled with rebuilding and preparation. The palace repaired damages, fortified defenses, and strengthened alliances across the galaxy. Elias continued to serve as protector, strategist, and advisor, his presence a symbol of humanity's courage and capability. Lyria grew into her role as a leader with greater confidence, guided by the lessons learned from her human ally. Through it all, Elias remained steadfast. He had proven that humans could act decisively, selflessly, and intelligently, even in the most alien of circumstances. His presence was no longer a temporary measure. It was a statement of what humanity could achieve: courage, ingenuity, and unwavering dedication to protecting what was right. One evening, as the twin moons of Zithuria rose over the city, Elias stood on the balcony with Lyria. The night was quiet, the stars shimmering above, and the city below glowed peacefully. He realized that his journey had changed him as much as it had changed those around him. He had faced enemies, navigated politics, and protected a kingdom, yet he had also shown that humanity could inspire trust, respect, and unity in the most unlikely of places. Lyria turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "You are more than I ever expected, Elias. You have shown what humans can do, not just with weapons, but with courage, wisdom, and heart." He shook his head slightly, a small smile on his face. "I am not extraordinary," he said. "I have only done what humans do best when it matters most. We protect, we endure, and we act with purpose. That is all anyone can ask." She smiled, a quiet admiration in her eyes. "Then you are extraordinary to us." Elias looked out at the stars, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The battle was over, the kingdom safe, and humanity had proven its worth among the stars. He had risked everything, yet he had gained something far greater: trust, respect, and the knowledge that courage, integrity, and determination could shape the destiny of an entire civilization. And as he stood there, watching the twin moons rise and the city glow below, he knew that his mission was far from over. But now, he was ready to face any challenge, protect any life, and continue showing the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. He was the protector, the human who had stood against overwhelming odds, and he had shown that courage, loyalty, and intelligence could triumph even in the darkest moments. Zithuria was safe for now, and humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through domination, but through honor, heart, and unwavering resolve. And in that moment, Elias understood the truth he had always known: that sometimes the greatest victories were not measured in battles won, but in the lives saved, the trust earned, and the courage shown when it mattered most.